A new millennium dawns over the United States. However, the Soviet Union still remains a threat as it managed to struggle through the 1990s. The August coup of 1991 saw conservatives and other hardliners in the Communist Party overthrow Gorbachev. The success of this coup saw the halt of all reforms, and while it stabilized the Soviet government, the country continued to stagnate. The 1990s also were not a great time for the United States. The Brown and Quail administrations had to deal with congressional deadlock and foreign policy blunders, which also saw America stagnate, but not decline. With the 2000 election looming, Quail does his best to bring in the next administration and hopefully his party in a better position. Foreign policy-wise, Quail sent aid to Eritrea to slow down the Ethiopians and did the unpopular move of supporting the Democratic People's Republic of Angola. Quail also sent aid to Sierra Leone and Liberia, which eventually took care of themselves with the help of the British. The 6th Marine Division would be sent in without any abilities to gain reinforcements, but would successfully take down the MPLA. However, the Ethiopian offensive proved successful, resulting in the inevitable loss of the US influence in East Africa. Another blow to US influence in Africa was the collapse of the RCD coalition fighting for a freer Congo. The Quail administration supported the Kasinga faction, with 2 divisions of the Marine Corps eventually being sent. During this time, Quail was struggling on the domestic front to the point where the Republican Party deemed it necessary for him to step down from running as president. The 2000 election would see Al Gore run for the Democratic Party, John McCain for the Republicans, and Donald Trump for the Reform Party on a left-leaning platform. With the Kasinga faction pushing back and Trump taking away votes from Gore, the Republicans would make a surprising plurality in the Electoral College, 2 votes shy of the 270 required to outright win the election. Due to them getting the majority of the Electoral College votes, John McCain became the 44th President of the United States. McCain would see the Kasinga faction declare victory in the Congo Civil War, with the bruised and battered Marines finally coming back home, but not before having to make a choice to help the South African military junta in its war against the African National Congress. Despite the Republic of South Africa being led by an extremely unfavorable government, they were aligned with the US while the ANC was aligned with the Soviets. McCain would make the morally dubious choice of assisting the Republic of South Africa. A less morally dubious choice, however, was supporting the Czechs overthrow their former oppressive communist government. All 3 of these proxies would be American successes, giving McCain time to relax. His relaxation would be short-lived though. President McCain and the rest of America saw the United States attacked on its own soil. With the perpetrators being sheltered in Afghanistan, McCain mobilized troops to ensure those who killed thousands would be brought to justice. In an unexpected move, McCain allowed the Soviet Union to help take down the terrorist threat, as those who perpetrated the attacks could do so anywhere in the world. It also helped with the military logistics of liberating a landlocked country. With Afghanistan liberated, the process of rebuilding the country and a defense force began. It is also worth noting at this time that the Arab Spring occurred, and McCain and other NATO countries sent aid to the democratic Libyan government to help spread liberal democracy to North Africa. The perpetrator of the attacks on America would be found and killed, and it became a time of relative peace for the United States, if you ignore the militarist-led USSR under Dmitry Yazov crushing rebellions and nation-building in Afghanistan. This year-long break in major conflicts would end as Yemen and Cambodia split into pro-Western and pro-Soviet sides. With US interests threatened, President McCain sends aid to Cambodia and Thailand while sending ground forces to aid the Saudi-backed Yemen. Saudi and US forces would quickly take down the People's Democratic Republic of Yemen and re-establish the Republic of Yemen's rule over the entire country. The situation in Indochina, however, escalated to a full ground war as Thailand and Laos intervened in the Cambodian Civil War. The McCain administration sent thousands of arms to Thailand and the Kingdom of Cambodia to ensure communist influence in Indochina is halted. On a side note, Afghanistan's reconstruction was complete and would see the US candidate win the elections. Going back to Indochina, Thai successes on the front resulted in Vietnam intervening to defend Laos and communist Cambodia. Vietnam quickly retook lost Laotian territory and threatened Thai sovereignty. The McCain administration saw the danger and immediately sent US troops to defend Thailand and the Kingdom of Cambodia and announced a blockade on Vietnam. While there were fears of this becoming another Vietnam like in the 60s and 70s, this war would be anything but. US forces quickly secured Cambodia and even pushed up to Ho Chi Minh City, but northern Thailand would fall to communist forces. This saw a redeployment of troops to liberate the north, rescuing encircled Thai divisions and encircling the communists. US forces then drove their way to Hanoi as China did literally nothing to stop it. After Hanoi, General Abrams pushed down the entire country and retook Ho Chi Minh City, ending the Fourth Indochina War in a Thai and US victory. As the Fourth Indochina War was closing, the Indian subcontinent exploded into conflict as India and Pakistan sent troops into each other's borders. Indian communists also rose up, resulting in India having two fronts to worry about. As Pakistan was already a US ally, American aid quickly flowed into Pakistan. The United States and the Western world then heard worrying news of the Soviet Union invading former Warsaw Pact members, with NATO quickly convening on whether intervention is required. Luckily, Pakistan would come out victorious against India, which would be good for the upcoming election. With that conflict paused for the moment, President McCain and NATO agreed to deploy a limited number of troops to assist the Eastern European alliance. The lack of troops and coordination between troops from other countries resulted in the utter collapse of NATO and Eastern European forces. President McCain and the Republicans somehow were able to spin the military disasters for the benefit of their re-election campaign by saying that the military needs to be expanded, which he could not do before, and the importance of all of his prior interventions. The tried and tested Southern strategy and President McCain's previous 4 years allowed the Republicans to get a plurality in the Electoral College again, which the House of Representatives then gave the election to. Immediately after the election, President McCain went to the aid of Pakistan against the People's Republic of India. As Abrams tanks rushed through the Indian countryside, Germany suffered a military coup, but eventually civilian government would be restored. While effective against a poorly trained Indian People's Army, it was decided that after the failures in defending Eastern Europe, the armored divisions would get more Abrams and APCs along with a battalion of Paladins and LAV-ADs. The improved armored divisions would easily outmaneuver the Indians and even take Delhi without resistance in the city, and even eliminate most Indian resistance. Meanwhile, back in Europe, the Soviets were exerting influence on Czechia, and Yugoslavia attacked Croatia and Slovenia. President McCain called on NATO to defend Croatia while the administration focused on countering the Soviets in Czechia. The Marine Corps will once again see action as they push back and encircled portions of the Yugoslav army. Full attention would be brought to the theater as Pakistan declares total victory, establishing an Islamic India, with the rest collapsing into anarchy, bringing peace but not necessarily stability to the region. With the fall of Yugoslavia and the successful re-election of a liberal Czech government, Western Europe was secured. Asia, however, burst into flames as the Korean War resumes, becoming the Great Asian War, when China and Japan intervene for the North and South respectively. President McCain, seeing the same threat as Truman did, proceeded to send American divisions to South Korea to defend our allies in the region. The initial stages of the war did not go well as there was no air superiority and of how packed the front lines were. China's involvement in the war also caused massive shockwaves to the economy, which the McCain administration was slow to react to due to the prioritization of military affairs, causing massive disruptions domestically. Almost an entire army was sent to South Korea to stem the tide, but that did not prevent the encirclement and fall of Seoul. While air superiority remained with the Chinese, the US Air Force was outtrading them, but it would take time to take control of the skies. With the US Expeditionary Force focusing on maintaining control of an airfield south of Seoul, the Chinese were making gains in the east. With Japanese air bases providing a place for American planes to take off and land, it was decided to send the armor to encircle the salient the Chinese made in the east, at the cost of weakening the west. With Chinese and North Korean forces attacking Busan, General Abrams punched through the defenses in the north, encircling the spearhead. Despite about 1 million Chinese and North Koreans trapped in the pocket was quickly liquidated. With the front line in the east a lot thinner, General Abrams launched a right hook against the Chinese, punching through with ease and able to circle back to take Pyongyang. This maneuver encircled most of the communists, and when it was closed, there were at least 670,000 casualties, resulting in nearly 5.25 million casualties for the Shanghai Pact total. With their forces extremely depleted, the East Asia Treaty Organization pushed to the Chinese border where the Chinese signed for peace, letting South Korea unite the Korean peninsula. Despite the conclusion of the Great Asian War, President McCain once again had to send troops overseas. Vietnam sought revenge for its loss, starting the 5th Indochina War. Without allies, though, the Vietnamese quickly started to fall. Ho Chi Minh City was captured again by US forces. General Abrams drove through the country, easily reaching Hanoi and ending the war. Due to unknown reasons, Thailand decided to completely occupy Vietnam, ensuring they could not attack them again. With the nation finally at peace, President McCain returned to domestic issues. He would continue to keep the GOP as the party of Reagan instead of shifting towards neoconservatism. Worrisome news came overseas as the Soviet Union initiated Operation Red Dusk and fought the weakened People's Republic of China. The Soviets were able to quickly secure China, and the CIA quickly gave reports that Dmitry Yazov was planning to strike the United States, and preparations were already being made. The Western world braced for the worst as NATO forces lined the border with the Warsaw Pact. When April came, the Soviets finally declared war. Nuclear raids were quickly planned to counter any potential Soviet nukes. One nuclear attack, however, according to official Pentagon reports, accidentally was launched, resulting in the complete destruction of Pact forces in Lower Silesia. Both sides of the war somehow agreed that there would be no further use of nuclear weapons, as NATO forces then pushed back against their aggressor. General Abrams, with the help of F-22 Raptors, F-35 Lightning IIs, and A-10 Warhogs, were able to allow the armored force to race to the Baltic Sea in an attempt to encircle Pact troops. Pact forces were quickly able to reinforce the bulge in their front lines, slowing the offensive down. However, this break was used by NATO forces to plan the drive to the sea, which quickly busted through Warsaw Pact lines and encircled a portion of their troops. The armored force would make a push towards Warsaw and would succeed in taking the city. This allowed the force to turn back up north to once again encircle the Soviets. This worked well, but the Soviets were able to hold on to the ports of Gdynia and Gdansk, preventing a true encirclement. Abrams had to reposition his tanks to attack from the west to not have to cross a river, which helped close the pocket of nearly 3 Soviet armies. With the fall of Gdansk, the Soviet puppet government in Poland capitulated, trapping many Pact forces. Mechanized forces were able to exploit the new developments, taking out some Soviet troops. With the north sparsely guarded, General Abrams launched an offensive from the north to the south to encircle the majority of Pact troops. Armored divisions raced down to encircle disorganized Warsaw Pact troops who had struggled to put up a resistance. Western Belarus and Ukraine would be liberated under NATO forces as Abrams continued his drive south. While Abrams could have gone east and faced little resistance, the destruction of Pact forces was more important than taking some cities. Eventually, divisions began to reach the Romanian border when the Warsaw Pact launched an offensive from Slovakia. US National Guard troops went from Italy to ensure that the Russians could not take the Czechs and to allow the armored divisions to keep pushing to the Black Sea, which they eventually reached. As it is 2008, it is election season in America. With President McCain to step down in accordance with the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution, the Republicans had to bring a new candidate to replace him. The two main contenders for the Republican primary were Lamar Alexander and Arnold Schwarzenegger. It appears that a massive blunder took place as Schwarzenegger could not accept the nomination due to Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5 of the Constitution stating that only natural-born citizens can become president, leaving Alexander the Republican nominee for president. There were also very close primary races between Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton for the Democrats and Barack Obama and Joe Rogan for the Reform Party. Shifting back to World War III, US forces raced to capitulate Romania and to reach Bulgaria, who was forcibly integrated by the Soviets into a Balkans People's Republic. By reaching Bulgaria, NATO forces would cut off Moscow's supply lines and to liberate Istanbul, which had fallen. A push from both the east and west would crush Pact forces and liberate Eastern Europe, but also resulting in 9 million casualties across the Warsaw Pact. The Warsaw Pact would also be outnumbered at least 2-1 and at worst 6-1 in fielded manpower. This lack of manpower would show as NATO forces easily rushed into the Russian heartland. On election day, the McCain administration was surprised that the Democrats have won a plurality in the Electoral College, which the House of Representatives allowed to win the election. This was in part due to the US public tired of interventions and the high casualties from the wars. McCain, even as a lame duck president, could still at least win the war he started. On January 7, 2009, the Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact collapsed as NATO declares victory in World War III. When it was time to step down, President McCain gave the presidency to Joe Biden. Biden would become the first president to see a truly unipolar world, with the United States leading the way. Thank you all for watching my Red Dusk achievement run, and if you liked the video, be sure to like and subscribe, you know the deal, and this is Jonathan 800 signing out.